Delingpod with me, James Delingpole. And I know I always say I'm excited about this week's special guest, but before we meet him, let's have a word from one of our sponsors. Welcome back to the Delingpod, Jamie Franklin. I'm really looking forward to this, but I've got to ask you a very important question. What's it like wearing a dog collar in this hot weather? Is it?
It's slightly constraining, to be honest with you. So yeah, it is a bit tight around the old neck here, but kind of have to do it. It's my uniform.
I know. I really like that about you. I mean, it's not the only thing I like about you, but
Yeah.
I do think if you're a priest, you kind of ought to wear the kit.
Yeah, I think so as well. And whilst we're opining, and I know you won't mind me saying this, I really think that clergy shirts should be black as well. I have a very strong opinion about this. Have you come across vicars who wear different coloured clergy shirts?
They wear sort of greyish ones and sometimes sort of mauvish ones.
Yeah, and blue. I mean, this is going to sound harsh because I'm criticising my own colleagues, and my co-host on Irreverent Tom has a very bright sort of sea blue clergy shirt, and I just can't stand them, to be honest with you. I just think if you're a clergyman, you should just act and dress like one. Don't try and be like everyone else wearing coloured shirts. Our shirts are black, and that's the way it is.
I don't think this conversation is frivolous, and actually, I think it actually goes to the heart of what we're going to talk about, which is what it is like living in a post-Christian world.
Yes.
Now you've written a book. I remember you spent a long time writing it, and you had your nose to the grindstone, but it was worth it. For those who haven't seen it yet or read it, it's called The Great Return. And I don't normally have time to read all the books by people that I've done on podcasts, but I read this. Do you know what? This will amuse you.
Yeah.
Because I used to read books at bedtime, but now because I read the Bible and the Psalms when I'm in bed, and I tend to fall asleep after I've got to the end of those. I don't have time for my non-religious reading. Yeah. So I now read all my novels and non-fiction and stuff at lunch and at breakfast because, of course, I don't read the newspapers because I hate the newspapers.
Yeah.
So thank you for helping me with all the lunches that are...
It's quite a good system, actually. I read novels before bed. That's when I do my fiction reading.
Do you? Do you read the Bible every day?
Yeah, I try to, actually. Yeah, well, I mean, I do in morning and evening prayer, so that's always sort of a given. Evening prayer is sometimes difficult, with 4 kids and one that's often exhausted, but morning prayer always. And I also have a Bible reading plan that I'm trying to stick to, but again, it doesn't happen every day. But I try to do it. There's a Bible. It's not actually a Bible. Well, I suppose it could be a Bible in a year if you did it every day, but it's just a regular way of going through the Bible.
Well, I mean, from start to finish, just...
Well, actually, the one I've got, there are lots of different ways of doing it. So the one I've got it's got a really lame name. It's called The Great Adventure Bible, which sounds like a child's Bible, but it's not. It's a Bible reading plan, which is kind of, it's a Bible which you buy. I got it from America, actually. It's in the RSV translation, which is a good translation. And then it kind of divides the Bible up into periods, and there's a reading plan that goes along with it. So you read several different chunks of the Bible at the same time. So, like, for example, at the beginning there, you read Genesis and the book of Job, and it's always got Psalms or Proverbs going along with it. So you're always reading stuff like that. It takes you through the history chapters of the Bible whilst simultaneously chucking in, something from the prophets, or I suppose with the prophets, there would be the relevant prophets, in terms of the timeline for the history that you're reading, or it will chuck in some of the poetic literature. And then in the New Testament, there's a similar kind of thing. So I suppose the idea is that you're going sort of chronologically through the Bible, doing several different readings at once.
That's a good approach, isn't it, actually? Because when you read it from beginning to end, as it's printed, when you're going through the Old Testament, you come to bits where you think, hang on a second, I've read this stuff before.
Yeah,
it's slightly different.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, lots of people, when they want to get into reading the Bible, in a post-Christian age, lots of people have no Christian education at all. And there's, lots of people are interested in Christianity. They want to get into it for good reasons. And then they start reading the Bible and they read Genesis. And of course, Genesis is narrative driven and it's very interesting, exciting book, which modern people can follow with no real sort of knowledge of anything really. And it's great. And the first part of Exodus is like that as well. But then, of course, however many chapters into Exodus, you just suddenly run into the law, and it becomes, the narrative kind of stops, and then it becomes very alien and difficult for people, and so they often give up halfway through Exodus. So I think you do need some at least a guide, but preferably a kind of Bible reading plan to sort of get you through it.
I'm slightly shocked with myself that it took me until my late middle age to read the Bible through, because I think even if you're not a Christian, it really ought to be high on your reading list, just so that you can inform yourself about how civilization was thought for a very long time, at least Western civilization.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, our whole civilization is built on the Bible. Western civilization is built on the Bible. I mean, in many ways, this, my book isn't really about the Bible, but in many ways, you could say that it is, because the foundation of Christianity is the Bible. And if it's true, that what I'm saying, if what I'm saying is true, which I think there's no doubt that it is, which is that our civilization has been built on Christian values, then really another way of saying that is that it's been built on values that come from the Bible and from the worldview that the Bible describes. And so for kids nowadays to just grow up without any knowledge of the Bible is in effect for people to be growing up without any knowledge of our civilizational history in that sense.
Yeah. Do you want to just before we start sort of meandering around, just briefly outline your thesis?
Yeah, sure. So the book is called. So the subtitle of the book kind of says it all, really. Why only a restoration of Christianity can save Western civilization. In a sense, I don't really feel like I'm saying anything particularly novel or interesting. Really, what I'm doing is a kind of synthesis of what many scholars and very bright people have done, which is to make the point that we live in a time of cultural forgetfulness. And what we've forgotten is where we came from. And where we came from is essentially from a civilization that was permeated by the Christian social imaginary, or worldview, as you might call it. That phrase, social imaginary, comes from the philosopher Charles Taylor. And it basically just means, the way that people just see reality within a given culture or social setting. So the way you sort of automatically or instinctively see things. So that used to be Christian, back in 1500 or, whenever. Now it's not. So, and we've forgotten that it used to be. But the thing is, our values, our cultural values, our idea of what is good, of what is beautiful, of what is valuable, all of this stuff has really come from Christianity in the first place. We've forgotten that it's come from Christianity, and we've come to believe that it came from other places, the scientific revolution, the Enlightenment, or whatever it might be. And now we think that we can hold on to these values. Not just talking about ethical values, of course, but ethical values are central to it. We might think about aesthetic values or social values or whatever. We can hold on to these things without Christianity, but the fact is we can't. And, like I said, many other people have said similar things. Famously, Tom Holland's book, Dominion, is a kind of historical telling of this. There's actually another book out at the moment with a very interesting guy, Bijan Omrani, God is an Englishman, Christianity and the Making of English Civilization, is making a similar point from a kind of historical perspective. But I suppose the thing that I'm doing, which is perhaps taking it one step further, is I'm saying that the consequences of this are disastrous and that they're likely to become much, much worse unless there is some kind of widespread return to Christianity. And by that, I don't just mean in a sort of nominal sense of people saying, Christianity was a good thing, let's revive its values. I'm saying that lots and lots of people need to actually become Christians.